Hello everyone and welcome to another video. And as the title suggests, today we are checking out the king of all AMD HD graphics cards, the Radeon HD 7990. We've come a long way, but the time has finally come to take a closer look at this extreme dual GPU beast. Released in April of 2013, this card's asking price was a rather hefty $999 USD, but that was soon reduced to as little as $799 USD according to AnandTech, packing two Malta XT GPU cores that are clocked at 950 MHz and massive 6GB of GDDR5 memory that's ticking at 1500 MHz. This card was not for the faint-hearted. Let me be clear, before I installed this on the test bench, this really got me thinking. Whilst looking at the driver install, I zoned out a bit and imagined how much was at stake. I had mixed feelings but was very excited at the same time. But now, back to the action. I bought this second-hand MSI card for £117 or about 160 USD on eBay. It came with the original box, which is always welcomed. Let's take a closer look at this card. I'd like to think that this is a reference card, needless to say a very good looking one. The sharp black and red contrast looks great. What's not so great are the 4 mini display ports and a single DVI serving as display outputs. The card requires two 8-pin connectors to run, which is exactly the same as last week's 7970. This card is quite long at 30 cm, but will only take 2 slots in your case. Enough talking, let's take it apart. There are 8 screws at the back, along with 2 GPU brackets, and the 2 screws I almost always forget to remove at the I/O plate. But with all of those out, I've attempted to separate the cooler from the PCB, and boy, this card was not happy to comply. It really was nerve-wracking to increase the force, knowing how special this card is, but eventually it gave up and let me in. Behold, the bare HD 7990 in all its beauty. Is it just me, or does this PCB look less OP than one of the last week's 7970? The old paste turned solid and was not easy to remove. No amount of isopropyl alcohol was able to get it off the heatsinks, and I had to once more deploy some advanced tools and literally scrub it off. Eventually, with all of it gone, it was time for a blob of fresh MX4 and then time to put the card back together. Are you guys ready? In Heaven Benchmark we saw 2,541 points. Yes, and wow! You can see it's on par with the modern RTX 8000 and miles ahead from any previous dual GPU cards. In other words, this card beats the HD 6990 by up to 85% in this test, during which the average system power consumption was at 334 watts. Looking at the efficiency scores, this card is not leading the overall chart, but it's nice to see that even at this crazy tier of GPUs, there's a clear improvement, so well done AMD. Let's move on from Heaven and for the last time run through the usual game bundle. Driving around in Test Drive Unlimited 2, I think the Bugatti is quite fitting the scene here. Thanks to great utilization, I saw average of 153 FPS, almost doubling up on the single 7970. What a way to end an era. Next up, it's Far Cry 3, and here, sadly, the utilization dropped to only around 45%, resulting in rather poor 83 FPS on average. Still, that's almost 10% increase over last week. Following similar path, in Dying Light I saw just 66 FPS on average, but this time Crossfire did not work at all and one of the GPU core that was used saw some serious utilization drops. This was no good. And the bad news just kept on coming. In GTA 5, whilst Crossfire was working, those cores were nowhere near their potential, down to about 65 to 70% utilization, and I saw average of just 108 FPS, almost exactly matching the last week's 7970. Things were not looking pretty, but here in Witcher 3, the 7990 finally showed off its raw power, big time. Running this game on ultra preset and we saw amazing 70 FPS on average. Whilst there was an occasional stutter, this was very playable and pleasing to the eye. GTA 4 being next. Well, I'm not even mad. This game has mind of its own, and the average was just under 90 FPS. Along with the few previous games, it seems as if only 50% of GPU cores gets utilized. 50 and 50 is 100, hey? Sky is the limit. But in Fallout 4, it's the 60 FPS cap. No problem for the 7990 to push this game to its very limit. I enjoyed some wandering around. The tunnel run in Metro 2033 Redux shows some weird crossfire behavior, at times fully stretching both cores to their 100% and other times just dropping to 64%. All of this meant I saw average of 39 FPS. Until the next time then, Artyom. And as a little bonus, let's now jump into 2015's Need for Speed. The reboot of the series was on sale and I could not resist. The 7990 here did really well, and although we was at the very edge of its VRAM limit, I saw 98 FPS on average, which I feel is very respectable. Okay guys, that was it for the game testing. Let's wrap up this review with a bit of a conclusion. I was impressed with its performance in many titles. Let's not forget, I'm running games at silly settings to keep things consistent. This card will have no problem to run majority of games at 60 FPS, only being limited by the latest DirectX support and its relatively small amount of VRAM. I can't believe I just said that after so many 1 and 2 GB cards that we looked at. That being said, we are still at the mercy of GPU utilization in Crossfire. There is no happy medium here. It's either very good or quite bad. What to expect of this 9-year $800 card? Well, I guess the initial excitement is gone, and truth be told, I would not get this card over the 7970 even if it was offered to me for similar amount of money. But now, I ask you folks, did you ever own one of these, or better, still use one today? I love reading your stories with the GPUs I test, so please, keep them coming. This was the AMD HD series in review, and I'm glad I had you all to join my small adventure, but now, that I've finished my story, I'm signing out. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, perhaps consider giving this video a like. I really hope to see you all in the next one.